What's up, what's up, everybody? JC here, and today I'm doing something a little different. I thought, well, honest to God, truth is, I was feeling kind of unmotivated. I should probably be reviewing the new. Actually, hold on a second. I'm trying to set something up here so that I can see your guys' questions. All right. So anyway, so I was kind of bored, feeling unmotivated. Even though I should probably be reviewing the new Transformers Siege Astro Train or the new Disney toy box Wolverine figure. I was like feeling a little burnout on reviews since I've done so many recently, and I thought, let's play some video games. And then I thought, well, let's play some video games, and then maybe I'll take some questions from you guys. So, instead of looking at my ugly ass, I figured I'd put the camera on the video game, and you can watch that. And then I got a screen in front of me as well, so I can see any kind of questions. I think if I've got this set up correctly. So if you got any questions you want to ask about me, toys, action figures, whatever, shoot them, and I'll try and answer them to the best of my ability. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to be playing Marvel Super Heroes here on my new Arcade1Up cabinet that I showed you guys last week. Hopefully you caught that video. Looks like I'm still trying to... All right, there we go. What would you want in the MCU's first FF or X-Men? Oh, what would I want in the MCU first, FF or X-Men? That's a pretty... Well, actually, let me start the game. Now, because I'm going to be talking and playing...
Which skill do you want to enable?
Alexa. Because I'm going to be playing and talking, I'm probably going to get my ass kicked here. But anyway, to Tyler's question, which would I want to see first in the MCU, X-Men or Fantastic Four? That's kind of a tough question. Honestly, I would want to see the one that's going to have the best storyline, the best reason for it. So, I guess I might go with the Fantastic Four just because hopefully that would mean that Doctor Doom was going to be, the bad guy. I would love to see Doctor Doom be the next main bad guy, the next Thanos for the MCU. So I guess under that reasoning, I would go with Doctor Doom or Fantastic Four. But I would really love also to see Hugh Jackman Wolverine in a real Wolverine outfit, make an appearance. So I don't know if that'll ever happen. Probably not, but that is something I definitely would want to see as well. What's up, T-Man? Are the controls comfortable on the arcade for me? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I got a riser, so, definitely without the riser, they would be too low. But I haven't had any issues with the controls. Now, when you've got two people playing, it does get a little bit crowded. So you have to kind of stand off to the side more so than you would with your traditional cabinet. But overall, I've had no problem with the controls or the comfortableness of playing it or what have you. I will note that this game is harder than I remember, and I think definitely harder than the console version. Remember the console version being much easier than this. I've yet to be able to get past like the first four or five combatants, and of course, each one gets harder. Let's see. Jay, I love the videos and the website. Thanks, Gray Fox. Damien, the only 80s arcade Arcade's Revenge. I had that one, yeah. That was a good one. That's the one on the computer where Captain America and Spider-Man no, that's Doom's Revenge I'm thinking of. I think, yeah. I don't know if anyone ever played that one. It was like on the PC, and you played either Captain America or Spider-Man, and you were like going in Doom's castle. And there was like a comic book that came with it and stuff. I love that game. Arcade's Revenge was on the Super Nintendo, if I'm remembering correctly, and you played the X-Men. And yeah, I had that one too. A demon. Yeah, I was looking at Walmart and like they had like their riser was all taped up and I these machines if you were to put them in like a real arcade, I don't think would stand up over the time over people playing it really super hard and everything. But I think if you're just getting it for your house, you know unless you're like super duper violent with your games, I don't think you're gonna have a problem with the controls or anything. At least I mean I've only had this for a week and this is the only Arcade1Up machine I've ever had, but so far I haven't had any issues. Captain America versus Thanos. You haven't gotten that far, and probably not going to get that far today. Spider-Man always seems to kick my ass too. It pisses me off. Damn it. Now if you I know in my video the other day where I was talking about YouTube, you guys were laughing about me cussing. If you want to hear me cussing, you'll probably hear me cuss today, because I do, when I start playing video games, have a tendency to start cussing at the screen. So I do apologize in advance for that. Get down here, you. Yeah, bitch. All right, so Jay, real question is, will your cat show up? Well, my cat's actually over here in her cat tree, so you never know. She's yet to jump up on the game machine, so probably won't see her on camera, but she's actually in the room with me, so. You're up. She's over there chilling in the window. Now Spider-Man's definitely gonna kick my ass. Make sure the camera is on the screen good. It's my first time with this setup. I got a screen in front of me on top of the game so I can read your guys' comments, and then I got a camera down here so you guys can see the gameplay. I figure that's better than just watching me sitting there and watching my ugly face, so. Let's see. How much was this one, Jay? Robert, this costs, the machine itself without the riser is about 300 bucks. If you get a generic riser, it's the generic risers are about 50 bucks, and then if they have actual a special Marvel riser, you can buy it as a set, the game and a special Marvel riser, which costs about 380, and then with tax, I almost got that, but they didn't have it in stock, and with tax that came out to about 400. And then there's a special edition that has a light up marquee and a riser and everything that you have to buy directly on the Arcade1Up website, which costs about 400 bucks before taxes. I know there's cheaper ways to get these games, and if you're really into arcade cabinets, I'm sure there's cheaper way. I was like looking on Amazon, and they've got cabinets with like practically every game from the 80s and 90s that you can get for 3,000 bucks, which if you were spending $300 per cabinet, that would add up. So there are probably cheaper ways to get these games, especially if you're into making them yourselves, building the cabinets, or stuff like that. But for me, I'm not that much into it, so just being able to buy it 300 bucks, putting it together, and it's not as big as a regular cabinet, so actually works out nicely for me in the space that I have it here in my office. What's up, Steven? I assume these Arcade1Up cabinets don't have video output. That is correct. Hey, Robert. So I'd build my own riser. Yeah, I thought about or just getting something to put, that I could set the machine on, but I decided to go with the riser. It was only 50 bucks. I mean, the Marvel ones that go with the machine are nice looking. I just not sure it's worth paying an extra like 30 bucks for. And they actually make decals. They haven't for the Marvel game yet, but they actually, there's a company that makes decals that you can actually get to put on the machines. So I might end up buying some decals that I can put on the riser. Yeah, Spider-Man always kicks my ass, and of course I'm kind of talking to you guys, so I'm a little bit distracted. Spider-Man gets more power-ups than... Yeah, he's gonna kick my ass. Ah. All right. Are you gonna get any of the Marvel versus Capcom? Well, they haven't announced, if you're talking about Arcade1Up, they haven't announced one yet, but I don't know if I would or not. I definitely, if they announce the X-Men side-scroller or the Avengers and Captain America and the Avengers side-scroller game, if they ever do a cabinet with those, I definitely will with that. As far as like console, I have Marvel versus Capcom and such on PS4. I have one of the versions. But I don't know if I would get the console version if they end up doing Marvel versus Capcom. Just because I don't like, this is the space where I have this machine is really the only space I have for these things. So I don't really have room to get multiple machines. If I did, I'd probably get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one because I love that side scroller game too. Let's see. Are you going to get any updates on the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle packs? The Metalhead and Feb? Damien, not really. I know the guys over at Fwoosh, actually NECA seemed to send them the next wave with Rocksteady and Bebop. So they took some images, which says to me they should be out any time now. But I haven't seen any reports of them coming out yet. And I know NECA has announced that they started selling the products on the Target website. And so I'm hoping that that means that that wave will be made available online this time. The first wave was not. Now, if you go to the Target website, first of all, you've got to filter out the secondary party sellers that are selling NECA product. So you have to like select just sold by NECA. And it's kind of funny because if you go there, there's actually only one action figure available for purchase directly from NECA on the Target website right now, which is the God of War figure. But again, I am hopeful that actually NECA will get, or Target will offer those online. Because I never saw the first wave at my Targets. I had to end up buying them off of eBay. So the Targets around me do not stock NECA stuff very well at all. I mean, in fact, if you go there now, you probably wouldn't even find anything because they've got so many Funko Pop figures in that section. Hey, Mr. JC, have you found the Deathlock or Deathlock block? I'm gonna actually switch out games here. I have not personally seen it. I know it's out, and honestly, I'm not that interested in it. I just the Gray X-Force figures are not something I'm super. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of getting burned out on all these repaints that Hasbro's doing with these fan channel exclusives. You know, the Deadpool set that I just reviewed the other day. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. I mean, just because there was nothing new. And so I don't know that Deadpool. I don't know if any of you guys watch MCU Collector, but he was lucky and was able to get the new Deadpool figure from Best Buy. I guess they put it up briefly on their website by accident, I guess, because that figure's not supposed to be sold until November. But he managed to get his hands on those from Best Buy, and I like the card back, but I really don't know if I need another Deadpool figure. So I haven't decided if I'm going to get that one or not. I am getting the X-Men one with the new Jean Grey and Cyclops, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get my hands on it next week. Though I have it pre-ordered on the GameStop website because they were supposed to ship it last week, but now they moved the date to 10/25. So, but I've seen some reports of people starting to find them in stores, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. All right, so I'm going to go over to the Punisher here. See, how is the Marvel cabinet? I'm enjoying. I've been enjoying it. I get up periodically when I'm working and just come over here and play some games. Maybe 15 minutes at most. I don't have time to just spend all day playing games, but it's a good stress reliever if you ask me. So, with the Marvel, fighter games and the X-Men fighter game, it's not, this game gets a little more entailed. If you start playing it, you might play it for a long time. But the other two, you can fight a couple rounds and then move on. So, and it's just like the arcade. I mean, the cabinet itself's a little bit smaller, but the gameplay is, you know, identical to what I remember from the arcade. Now, I haven't played in the arcade in ages, but keeping in mind that I was like in high school when these games came out, but uh, but from what I remember, they seem pretty accurate. Yeah, I agree with you, Gray Fox. I always thought that the Shuma character was a weird choice for the game, but like even in this Punisher game, you get some weird characters that pop up, like Bushwhacker, which I really consider more of a Daredevil bad guy, and the Reavers, which I associate more with the X-Men and stuff. So it's kind of a weird choice of characters that you see in this one too. Let's see. The build quality, yeah, it's I haven't had any issues in that area either. So buttons seem to be sturdy. I mean, as I was saying before, I think if you had this machine in like a real arcade where tons and tons of different people play, and you get younger kids that maybe pull on really hard and stuff, that it probably wouldn't stand up as well as a traditional regular arcade machine. But I think in your house, unless you're like really violent with your games, I don't think you'll have any issues with this, and it definitely seems to be pretty well made. Yeah, the Punisher game is basically very similar to if you ever played like the games like Final Fight, Double Dragon, things like that. So that's what this game always reminded me of. See, are you planning to get more cabs? Oh, yeah, I'd be tempted to get the Ninja Turtle game, but I just don't have the space for a lot of cabinets. So the space where I have this one is really, and I had to move some stuff around in my office. I had to put a bookshelf that I had some DC collectible figures standing on in the closet just to make room for this one. So I really just don't have the room for a lot of cabinets. I'd love to have like, I guess call it a man cave with like a home theater system. I mean, I have a nice theater, TV system in my living room, but I would love to one day maybe, have a big giant screen TV and pool table and arcade machines and stuff. But I kind of use my basement as a gym because I feel like I get more use out of it that way. Not that I've really given it much use recently, but in the office I just don't have room for many other cabinets. But that turtle game I definitely was tempted and thought about getting. I even like the Star Wars game, but the Star Wars game just doesn't have enough to warrant the $300 in my opinion. All three of those games are practically the exact same thing. In fact, the Empire Strikes Back one is just a modified version of the Star Wars one. So the only, like I said, the only other cabinet I probably would get is if they ever release the side-scrolling X-Men game and Marvel Captain America and the Avengers game. Yeah, the random goons. Yeah, I remember. I only saw this Punisher game one time in the arcade. I think I had it on Sega Genesis because I remember playing it, but I only saw it in the arcade one time, and the thing that stood out to me is that they had Nick Fury's image on one of the sides of the cabinet. And back then, Nick Fury wasn't a very common character, you know, the original comic book Nick Fury, and so it was just odd to see him featured on the game. And then when you start playing it, you get all these obscure villain characters, which is kind of cool. So if you guys have I mean, that basically, besides me just playing this game and goofing off, if you guys have questions about anything, let me know. I don't have any major breaking news for you guys that I haven't previously already talked about, but if you got any questions, feel free to shoot them at me. Hey, yeah, Steve, I was actually, that's probably what I really should be doing, is filming a review of the Astro Train figure. I am planning on doing that, but I just was feeling I've been doing so many reviews lately, and Transformer reviews are always the biggest pain. Like, that ape face review I posted, you know, I had people complaining because they could see my hand when I was transforming it, and you know, I mean, there's probably better people out there more expert at transforming stuff, but like, you know, I thought I was pretty proud that you could actually see the things I was actually doing with it to transform it, and yet there were people that were still like, "Oh, I can see your hand, man. It's getting in the way." So I was like, it's just, I mean, it's constructive criticism. I get it, but it's pretty hard to transform those. It can be hard to transform those things under normal circumstances, but then when you're trying to do it on camera and then trying to keep your hand off the camera, it definitely gets difficult. But yeah, I am probably going to do in the next day or so, maybe even later today, get up the Astro Train review. And then I also want to review the new Disney Toy Box Wolverine figure that I got, which I don't know how many of you collect the Toy Box figures, but I actually think they're pretty cool. And the Wolverine one I think is really cool because it's got the retractable claws that are like the old Toy Biz 5-inch figure had, where you have like you pull it back in its wrist. Just punch the picture of the Kingpin. This guy's got a flamethrower. What's my favorite Marvel Legend this year so far? Let me think on that. I mean, mostly what we've gotten this year so far is, well, actually, I take that back. I'm trying to think what was the first wave for the year. I'm probably gonna say either just because I'm a Captain America fan. I like both the MCU Walmart Captain America figure and the 80 Marvel Comics 80th anniversary Alex Ross Captain America figure. So those might be my two favorites, just because again, Cap's my favorite character. I'm not saying necessarily those are the best figures that have been released this year, but just my personal favorites. Surprisingly, I like the Iron Man, Avengers Endgame Iron Man figure, even though still disappointed that didn't come with any of his weapon accessories, and probably Hasbro will end up doing another version where you have to buy it again to get those. But I actually like that figure. I think it's pretty well done. And the Thor and Iron Man Alex Ross figures are pretty good as well. Hey, miss you, Jay-Z. Do you find irritating that we have not heard the beat? I'm not sure. I wish you'd do more Transformer reviews. Well, I mean, I don't actually, personally, I don't collect, like, this is the majority of my Transformers, which you can see are mostly masterpieces. So I do collect, I collect here, like, I love that Omega Supreme, and I get some of the Titans, that Devastator is awesome. I love the Jetfire. I've got my original Unicron, but I don't collect every single Transformer out there. I'm mostly just a G1 fan, and not even so much, by the time the stuff like the Headmasters and stuff came out, I kind of moved on from Transformers. I do remember and see many times the cartoon, the miniseries with the Headmasters, but Transformer reviews just don't perform very well because I think most people who get good Transformer views on their videos are the ones that do them all the time. They basically dedicate their channels to the Transformers, and I just don't do enough. I don't have enough Transformers to be able to do that. And because they're some of the honestly they're like some of the hardest videos to do, because you have to transform them and you have to be able to do them on camera, and you have to make sure that people can still see the figure while you're transforming it. You have to make sure you're doing it right. And I'll be honest with you, I have a hard time following the instruction sheets that they provide. So I'm having to look online, look at pictures or what have you to make, and then sometimes you maybe miss something. So I don't know. I might try and do some more Transformer reviews. I got that Unicron, and we'll probably try, and when, I mean, we're like over a year away from that thing being released, and I don't know how I'm gonna fit that on camera, but I'll try and probably review that when it comes out. That thing's gonna be a bitch to review. Yeah, I saw the Unicron at I saw it originally at San Diego, and then they had it on display at New York Comic Con as well. And I think it's some people have been were nitpicking it online, but I think it's a great looking figure. I mean, I honestly will, when I get it, I will probably transform it one time. And then it's probably just going to sit on my shelf, and I haven't totally decided if I'm going to keep it in robot mode or planet mode, but I seriously doubt I'm going to spend, that I'm going to transform it a lot. I don't do a, I don't, I transform them once or twice, and then I put them on the shelf, and that's how I display them. So I miss the old days of G1 Transformers and how easy they were to most of them were to transform, to be absolutely honest with you. I mean, I love the masterpieces, but they can be a pain in the ass to transform. I would have been very surprised. I mean, it was looking iffy if it was going to happen, but I would have been very surprised if it didn't get made. I just feel like by the time they've gone to as much trouble as they have to have that thing, the production sample and everything made. I mean, the time and energy to design it and all that. I just feel like I find it hard to believe that they would just put it in mothballs and not go forward with it. So, I'm not saying they fake their count or anything, but I would just be very odd if after putting that much energy and resource into it that they wouldn't go forward with that stuff. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of things like Kickstarters, in all honesty. I mean, to me, Kickstarter is just a way of saying pre-order, and I understand it with smaller, some of the smaller guys, but I feel like, if they're either do it or don't, but don't try and pressure people into doing it just because they're afraid it's not going to happen, which is how I kind of feel like Kickstarters are. I don't know what I have no idea what the Fantastic Four Build-A-Figure is going to be. I suspect it's going to be Super Scroll, but that's just because I know there was, that Super Scroll figure that was in the Walmart computer systems, a year or so ago that never materialized, just like the Doctor Doom figure. And as you see, we're getting Doctor Doom, and so I suspect that is good possibility that that's the figure they're going to do as the Build-A-Figure for the Fantastic Four wave, but not based on any other information other than that. So that's my best guess, but we'll have to wait and see. As for the Spider-Man wave, I really have absolutely no idea what that Build-A-Figure is going to be. Hopefully it'll be something cool though. Like in the Harry Potter, I have actually not got my hands on any of those Harry Potter figures, so I got to be honest. Other than Voldemort, I thought based on the images and stuff, and even at the when I saw it at like San Diego, I was feeling like the likenesses weren't that great. So, but I didn't look at them that closely, so I don't know. The Voldemort figure definitely I thought looked incredible. Now, in all honesty, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan in general. I mean, I've seen the movies and stuff, but I'm not like, I don't live, eat, and breathe Harry Potter. My wife loves Harry Potter. She loves the books more than the movies. We got the Reavers here. This is always, yeah. These guys are always. I think they've been. I remember Punisher fighting these guys in the comics. I do, but again, I generally think of them more as X-Men villains. Big Spider Slayer, perhaps. That's I mean, anything's possible, and you know, frankly, they'll probably get around to doing everybody, and Spider Slayer would be a possibility for a good choice for a Build-A-Figure, but I have no intel on the Build-A-Figure for that wave at this time. And like I said, even with the Fantastic Four, while I feel like there's a very good chance it's going to be Super Skrull, that's really more just based on previous, knowing that there looked like that Hasbro was definitely planning on doing that figure at one point, and generally when that happens, we end up seeing it released eventually, even if it wasn't originally planned. Just like that Stan Lee figure. I mean, we all knew that Stan Lee figure was there, even though Hasbro refused to acknowledge it until New York Comic Con here. But I'm not surprised at all that eventually they got it released. So I kind of feel like the same way with the Super Skrull, and as the Build-A-Figure, it makes the most sense. What I'm really, I have to wonder. I mean, I have to figure that the next assuming they're going to do more projects, that the next project for HasLab is going to be a Marvel one. So I'm really kind of interested to know what they're going to do. I really hope it's not a vehicle. I know some people would love to see like a X-Men jet or Blackbird jet, but I just really am not interested in a vehicle, because something like a Blackbird, you're not going to be able to display figures on it very well. I don't have the room for huge vehicles, so if I'm going to get something big like that, I want it to be either something that can display a lot of figures, or give me a big figure like a giant Galactus or a Master Mold Sentinel, something like that. But I really wouldn't be interested in like a Blackbird or a Quinjet or something like that. That's why I didn't get the sail barge, to be honest. While it was an awesome looking toy, I just didn't really have the room for it. And the only figures that you'd really be able to display on it are those from Tatooine and Jabba's palace. So it wasn't worth getting. What's up, man? What's up, Fabrico? Yeah, I've really been digging the arcade game. I mean, I only play it here and there, and I've only had it for a week, but I've really been enjoying it. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about these huge vehicles, is, they're awesome looking, but I think many of us we don't have the room for it. It's not even so much necessarily maybe the price, though that certainly is a factor, but it's more about the space. I mean, I love GI Joe, and if they ever did a new U.S. flag, that would be super awesome. But the honest to God truth is, I don't think I'd have any place to display it, so good chance I probably wouldn't get it. Not that I would love to see it, but again, I just don't think I'd have the room for it. And that goes for many of these. I mean, even the Unicron, I'm not exactly sure where the hell I'm going to put it. I can put it on the shelf that I showed you with the Transformers up there on the very top, but then I'd have to move all that other stuff, and then I wouldn't know where to put that stuff. Madam Web Deluxe set is a HasLab thing. Yeah, I mean, Madam Web's kind of an obscure character, but if they did like in her spider form and everything, yeah, that would definitely be kind of an impressive looking figure. I don't know if there's enough demand for that obscure character that it would sell well, but Southern Cal Collector, do I get infinite lives? So it's just like in the arcade, when you die, you can, like in the arcade, you'd have to put a quarter in to continue. So you don't have to put quarters in, you just have to hit the player 1 button to continue. So from that standpoint, you have infinite lives and you do start from where you died. You don't have to start completely over, but you do have limited lives. So you essentially have to start fresh with a new batch of lives after you die. But technically, especially like with the Punisher game and even the fighting games, it's like I said, it's just like the arcade. It's just you don't have to put a quarter in to continue. Let's see. Actually, oh, I gotta jump. Sorry, I was trying to do two things at once here. Yeah, I never really thought about it, but these guys that just basically play video games and shoot videos of themselves playing video games and talking, I never really thought how distracting, talking and stuff is while you play a video game. It's a little harder than you might think it is. For the Unicron, what I really want to know what the packaging is going to look like. I love what they've been doing with the Transformer packaging recently, so I'm really interested to see how that's going to end up looking. I'm hoping it's going to be really cool. Madam Web, I mean, that's definitely an interesting choice. I don't know. I could see it being a really cool looking figure if, like I said, if they had her in her like spider form. That I don't remember. Like, I'm trying to remember. There was a game back in the day. I think it was a PC game that had her in it, and had this really cool spider form. Her head on this like robotic spider body type deal. But I can't remember it's like Quest Probe or something like that, if I remember. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It was like 3 PC games, and there was a comic book series that went with it. When I play this game, it makes me nostalgia for reading comics. I mean, I try and read some of the Marvel stuff these days, but every time I try, I don't know. I just don't think they're that good anymore, and the price on them is bad. But I do miss. I used to read Marvel stuff all the time when I was in, when I was a kid and through high school. and even my early adult life. But it just, when the comics are $5 a pop, and you get, seems like the stories are shorter and just constantly rebooting and relaunching, and I don't know. It's just hard for me to really get into reading comics these days, but when I play these games, it makes me remember the nostalgia of reading the comics back in the late '80s and '90s, and definitely. The McFarlane Voldemort. Yeah, I was thinking about. I also want to pick up. I haven't gotten them yet, but I was waiting for Scorpion to come out. But I want to get the McFarlane Mortal Kombat figures. I've seen Sub-Zero at like GameStop, but Scorpion hasn't come out yet, or at least not that I've seen. So I was gonna wait and get them both. But I'm definitely interested in checking those out. And the Harry Potter was like, I mean, it was the same like with Game of Thrones. They were kind of interesting to me, but just, I don't know, not enough to warrant wanting to get them. Do I think Hasbro is slowly going away from realistic weapons like guns? I don't know. It's hard to say that Hasbro ever was that into realistic guns, at least paint wise. I haven't really seen. I mean, they make them, they give them kind of crappy paint applications or no paint applications, but I haven't. They've seemingly the realistic guns sculpt wise doesn't really seem to have decreased too much. So I could see it maybe just because of all the gun issues, but I haven't really noticed with the Marvel Legends that they've steered away. Maybe that's why they do them in weird colors like red and things like that, but now that the Game of Thrones series is over, I don't know. I'd gotten those Funko ones, but the quality on those were so bad they broke so easily. And then like McFarlane's second wave, just had like another aria. I just like, seems like if you're gonna do a second wave, you should get out, not just do the same characters. Yeah, Heroes Reborn definitely sucked. Actually, I have all the Heroes Reborn stuff, but and actually, if you look like the titles actually really started to get bad leading up to Heroes Reborn, which is probably why they tried Heroes Reborn to begin with, but and it's not just the stories, it's the art. I don't think the art in most of the comics these days is that good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spoiled on people like McFarlane and Jim Lee and those guys, but glad you liked your Storm collectibles, Chris. Actually, I haven't been getting a lot of the Storm collectible stuff. So Storm Collectibles, when they first started doing their figures, they sent me their Scorpion and Sub-Zero figure to review, and Ryu. And I thought they were good figures, but like they kept trying to tell me that these figures were going to basically revolutionize action figures and stuff. And while I thought they were good, I did have some issues with them, like with like Ryu's gi, if you unhook it, getting it fastened back up was next to impossible and stuff. But I mean, I think they are a good figure. I still kind of like the Soda toys. I don't know if any of you ever collected the Soda toys, Street Fighter and stuff, but I still am actually kind of partial to those. Onslaught, I thought started good, but I didn't really like the way they ended it, which kind of merged into Heroes Reborn. And you know what? Whatever, like during that time, whatever happened. I mean, how did I don't remember how he went from being a kid to being an adult again. I don't remember how they got out of that one. Do you know if Hasbro made a Marvel Legend Bushwhacker? No, they have. I don't. If they do, I don't have it, but I don't think they did. I don't. Yeah, I don't think they did. I don't even think that. I'm trying to think if anyone ever did Bushwhacker. Like, I know Toy Biz didn't do Bushwhacker in the 6-inch Marvel Legend line, but I was like trying to think if they ever did them in the like 5-inch line or anything. And I don't recall Bushwhacker. Maybe him having a shotgun arm was just too much. I don't know, for a kid's toy. And it's funny because like I hadn't thought about Bushwhacker until like I started playing this game again. I was like, oh damn, I remember that character. Age of Apocalypse figures. I mean, yeah, I think they'll be good figures, and if you're a huge Age of Apocalypse fan, I think you'll definitely dig them. But I thought it was an okay storyline. I mean, it was a good storyline, but other than maybe Nate Gray and a couple others, I don't know. Like, I remember having I still have the Toy Biz ones that they did. But I guess to say there are probably other characters that I would rather see them do than Age of Apocalypse. And of course, big question is, are we going to get a new Age of Apocalypse figure? You would imagine that we would, but so here's a question, you guys. What do you prefer your Punisher? White boots and gloves or black boots and gloves? A Bastion figure would be, I definitely could go for a Bastion figure. Practical wise, black makes more sense to me, but I actually, maybe just because that's his original look, I like the white gloves and the white boots. In real life, that would be kind of silly probably, but damn it. These guys look more like the Terminator, though, than the Reavers to me. I wonder if we'll ever get a Beyonder figure in the white jumpsuit. What do you guys think of the Avengers, the Iron Man based on the upcoming Avengers console game from Square Enix? And do you think they should do the other Avengers? Oh, Overhulk, I still have that figure. I have all those Toy Biz, those 5-inch Toy Biz figures. I don't even think they make caps anymore. Yeah, I don't think the game's going to do very well, to be honest. Reactions to it have not seemed very positive. So, oh, god damn it. Keep hitting the wrong button to jump. Damn it. Multi-pack? I mean, anything's possible, but they seem to be going with the really big giant items that they could never get in a retail store. So I would think a multi-pack they could probably excuse me, I had to sneeze. Probably get into a retail store if they wanted to, but you know, they'd never get a 20, 30-inch size, you know, tall figure at retail. I don't think so. That's more likely what they're going to do, or a huge giant vehicle that would take up a ton of shelf space. How many people are getting the Mezco 112 Collective Black Bolt just to get the Lockjaw figure for your Marvel Legends? So far, I'm impressed. Not impressed. All. What are you talking about, Abrico? Ugh. No. Screw you. Good old microchip bringing me back to life. Ultimate Alliance 3. I have that game, but I've only had a chance to play it once. I love the first Marvel Alliance, but I wasn't as impressed with the second one. Oh, the Avengers game. Yeah, I agree with you on the costume designs. Though, like the old, I mean, they're going to do multiple versions, so I'm sure they're going to do comic book. I mean, we're already seeing that alternate version of Cap that looks like, the one he wore before he turned to Hydra or whatever. Pizza. God damn it. He did. All right, so I can't imagine his mouth won't open. The real question is, will Hasbro get one out? Make a figure of the new what? Oh, didn't see that name. If they do Blockjaw, if they do it the right size, I could see it being a Build-A-Figure. I mean, Washington, D.C., or right outside of Washington, D.C., Uber Hulk. What company would you like to see a figure of the new Joker? You talking about the new movie Joker? Honestly, I wouldn't be that interested in a movie Joker figure, but I would imagine if someone's going to do it, it's probably going to be McFarlane Toys. Yeah, to me that movie, I mean, it was a good movie, don't get me wrong. It was a well-acted movie, but it was a terrible comic book movie. It was a terrible movie about the DC comic character Joker. There's no way that Joker would ever be a formidable challenge to Batman. He just didn't have the intelligence level. I mean, I'm sorry. Everything he did in that movie was happenstance and luck. There was no indication of high intelligence or superior thinking. So, I don't know. Like I said, it was a good movie about a guy that just kind of goes crazy and what what pushed him to the land of the loony, but I just did not think it was a good movie based on the DC comic character. I, I was really disappointed we didn't see anything from McFarlane at New York Comic Con, and it kind of makes me want. When even at San Diego, Todd McFarlane, when I talked to him, had indicated that he was hoping to have the new stuff out at the beginning of the year. Basically, as soon as it turns 2020, he wanted to have DC stuff out on shelf. But the fact that they had nothing to show at New York Comic Con, and the fact that we're seeing like DC Collectibles put out new DC Essential figures, which are basically just repaints that they kind of put together pretty quickly, it makes me think that the McFarlane DC stuff isn't going to come out until later in the year, probably after Toy Fair. I could see Mezco doing a Joker figure from the movie. In fact, that probably would be the best company to do one. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. Gotta punch. Scully here is kicking my ass. Take that, Scully. I'm gonna get cheese. Punk. Missed. See, I mean, I don't know. The problem with NECA getting the DC license is NECA just does not have the distribution channels to handle a license, in my opinion, as extensive as DC. I mean, they can barely get any of their stuff in at Target, and they're relying on basically fans to help them keep their shelves stocked. There is at a point where just the size of a company, I mean, don't get me wrong, NECA figures, and those DC figures were really good, but, those were done in a very limited number, in a very limited way. If you're talking about a mass produced line, I just feel like if NECA was doing DC, there would be a lot, people being able to find them on shelves or anything would be very difficult, and it just wouldn't work out very well. I have some reservations about McFarlane as well. Based on the leak lists that came out a few months ago that indicate they're going to be doing 7-inch figures. I mean, I think that's a mistake. I don't personally have a problem with 7-inch figures, but I really feel like they're missing an opportunity, not doing them in the same scale as like Marvel Legends. Doing things like a build a Batmobile that's not in scale with the figures that they're including the pieces with, I just feel like, is kind of lame. So, I don't know. I think they can do a really good job, but it's just really hard to say what we're going to end up with. But I do think McFarlane has better distribution channels into retailers than NECA does, and that's going to benefit collectors more so in the long run, just because it's going to make it easier to find their stuff. Yeah, I heard that NECA was starting to hit some Walmarts, but like I said, they can barely keep most of the Target stores stocked at all. My 2 Targets near me almost never have any NECA stuff, and it's not that it's selling out, they're just not really stocking it, and that's because they just don't have the manpower to do that, I think. I mean, as they grow and get bigger, that could change. But I just think right now it would be difficult, which may be why Warner Brothers opted to go. In fact, I have a feeling that is why. I mean, money probably had a part to play as well, but I feel like that if you're comparing McFarlane, from a standpoint of like a Warner Brothers, if you're looking at NECA or McFarlane Toys, you're going to see that McFarlane Toys has more inroads into the Walmarts and the Targets and stuff that than NECA does, and so I have a feeling that played a role in who got that license. I don't know if it's as much about not knowing what the collectors want. I think a lot of these companies are trying to walk a tightrope of providing something that collectors will want and still will even when they're calling even like a Marvel Legend line. Hasbro, obviously that's probably a more popular line with collectors than kids, but Hasbro still tries to walk that line to make those figures that kids might buy as well. So I think, and McFarlane, which is probably why they have the better inroads into the larger retailers, because that's what the Walmarts and the Targets want. They want a product is going to appeal to a wider audience than just the adult action figure collector. So I feel like McFarlane tries to walk that line and maybe doesn't always do as good a job as they could, but that's why I think I mean I think all these guys know what collectors want, but like I said, there's a business aspect to it of what the retailers want. I mean, the honest to God truth is we're not NECA and McFarlane Toys' customer. Walmart and Target and those retailers are, and they're the ones that really dictate in large part what gets made and what doesn't get made. And even more so when you're dealing with these big pricey licenses like a DC Comics or what have you. When you're doing something like Aliens or horror movie figures, those licenses, while probably cost some change, are not going to be as costly as, say, a Star Wars or DC Comics or Marvel Comics or something like that. And so that gives the manufacturer more leeway in what they can do with those licenses. But, like I said, what the retailer wants necessarily isn't what the collector wants, if that makes sense. Yeah, McFarlane does Kingpin. We're up to Kingpin. McFarlane does up to this point, but I think if you really look at McFarlane with like the building block toys and things, and they've been doing stuff based on some of the Cartoon Network stuff. They definitely have been trying, and even like Fortnite, they've been trying to appease not just the adult collector but the kids as well. But yeah, Hasbro. McFarlane started out as a company just making collector toys. Hasbro started out as a company basically just making toys for kids, and they both have kind of made the journey into the middle over the years. And one thing, as as a NECA starts to make inroads into places like Walmart, that probably means you're going to see NECA making similar type of sacrifices. That you're going to start seeing them make stuff that maybe isn't quite as appealing to collectors. Because like I remember, a couple years ago when we did an interview with Randy from NECA, and he was explaining to us with the Pacific Rim toys that they were doing at the time based on the original movie, and that originally Walmart was going to pick up that line and carry it in their stores, and because of that, they actually had to dial back with accessories and certain things, and it wasn't as good a figure in general for the collector, but they had to do that at the behest of Walmart because Walmart wanted the price at a certain range and such, and so that figure didn't, that original Pacific Rim figure that they did wasn't as good as the later ones. Walmart ended up not carrying the line, and so they had more freedom to make the figures better. But if Walmart had carried that line, it would have probably not been as good in general, just because Walmart, they don't want super hefty priced action figures on their aisle because they don't think as many people are going to buy it. So even though when it's better for the company, because the company's, if Walmart carries NECA's products, they're going to sell more products, and so that's better for them. And certainly it means you're going to have more opportunities to find their products at more places. But the downside to when some of these big box retailers start carrying these products is that the product itself, for whatever reason, price or what, has to be kind of dialed back a bit. What's up, zombie time? Wonder if this was the first appearance Kingpin made in a video game. Does anybody remember the old Spider-Man game for the Atari 2600 where you basically climbed up a building and fought the Green Goblin? I think that was my first Marvel video game. I mentioned this last week when I was showing this game off, but it's amazing to me how much better. I mean, DC back in the 80s and 90s definitely ruled the movie theaters with things like Michael Keaton Batman and Christopher Reeve Superman and such. I mean, the stuff that Marvel got out was horrible back then. The Dolph Lundgren Punisher. And that was like one of the few that actually made it out to the theaters for any period of time. But Marvel had it, and I think that's benefited them more today. Why I think Marvel characters are more recognizable. I mean, obviously Batman, Superman, and a certain number of the DC characters are very recognizable. But I think there's a wider range of Marvel characters that are more recognizable to the general public, even before the MCU really got going. Just because of things like these video games and the cartoons and stuff that they did back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, I took out the Kingpin. Uh-oh. Building's coming apart. Look, it's Nick Fury. Nick Fury smoking a cigar. I don't think you'd ever see that in a video game today. Smoking's bad for you, kids. Oh, there goes... Was that King Hotel? As the Kingpin faced his final defeat at the Punisher's hands, the King building, its support structure badly damaged, collapsed in dying echo, reverberating through the city like anguished roar. Demon. I remember when Toy Biz did the Punisher van for the 5-inch line. That's actually a pretty rare toy, I think, these days. No problem, Everett. Any new news on the NECA Alpha Predator? No, I've not heard anything new on that one. I got the Marvel Legend Nick Fury so I could customize him. I want him to look like he does in this game. Yeah, it's weird how they don't have him wearing his shield outfit. They actually, when they show his bio, they list him as an agent of shield, but Everett, welcome to the channel. What's up, Mr. King? I'm just letting the credits play. I've never actually watched all this. Actually, don't even think I remember this being a Capcom game until it was announced for this cabinet. Have you ever met an action figure collector who was visually impaired? Everett, I don't think I have in person. Thanks, Mr. King. No, I don't think there's an after credit scene. All right, so let's jump over to X-Men. Oh, hit the wrong button. Let's see, I found the Fortnite Peely at Target earlier. They did not have it on shelf yet. I asked the guy while he was stocking up on other figures if he had two in the back. Nice find, Chris. I gotta be honest with you, I am not a Fortnite fan, never played the game once in my life. The only thing I really know about it is from the action figures, but awesome find. That banana guy, yeah, that peel guy though, that figure is hilarious. Thanks, Everett, I appreciate it. Charlton Heston. Yeah, he kind of does, with an eye patch. All right, let's go over to X-Men. So I'm curious, for you fighting game fans, what do you like better, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter? I think I got to put myself in the Street Fighter camp. Street Fighter 2, I remember playing rigorously in the arcades. Mortal Kombat, I think the coolest thing about Mortal Kombat, obviously, was the fatality moves. That was always, that was kind of shocking back in the day. So I think that's what made that game appealing. But I think just general gameplay, I prefer the Street Fighter. Uber Hulk. Right now I'm playing, what you're seeing here is Arcade1Up cabinet. So this is actual arcade type machine, so it's not a console. So I did a video on this last week if you want a more in-depth look at this, but Gray Fox Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter, yeah. I don't know. The original Street Fighter 2 game, still one of my favorites. It's always funny though that no one ever remembers people ever actually remember playing the original Street Fighter, not Street Fighter 2, but just the original Street Fighter, which wasn't a fighting game like Street Fighter 2, but there is an actual Street Fighter game. All right, so who should I be? Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine, Omega Red, Sentinel, Iceman, Colossus, Psylocke, Silver Samurai, or Spiral. Everett, that just means you're early to the party. Nothing wrong with that. All right, I'll go with Psylocke. Oh, actually, I'm going to restart because I didn't realize we'd actually started. Taking on Wolverine in the Savage Land. It's kind of weird how like Psylocke seemed to get so much love in these games. You would have thought like a Jean Grey or somebody would have gotten, or Rogue even. I mean, I know those characters appear in like the later games, but Psylocke's in both the X-Men Children of the Atom and then the original Marvel Super Heroes game. It's just kind of weird. Even Storm, I would have. If I remember correctly, the very original Street Fighter was more of a side-scroller, kind of like that Punisher game. But see, it was the Street Fighter was basically the inventor of this kind of game. I mean, there wouldn't be a Mortal Kombat if it wasn't for Street Fighter. Omega Red. Psylocke's kind of a weird character. I mean, the way she started out was totally different. I guess it was really Jim Lee that made her what she is. But like her original pink outfit. And honestly, I think it was the Marvel swimsuit edition comic that really kind of made everyone kind of take notice of Psylocke. What HasLab figure would I be interested in? I mean, my preferred choice, I think, would be like a Sentinel, like maybe Master Mold, or even like Nimrod, which wouldn't be as big, but if they did him like really extensive with like some cool attachment accessories and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't want to pay $400 for that, but I could see that would be a cool, you know, maybe even like have them light up or something. When I pay $1,000 for an X mansion. I don't know. Probably not, just because for it to be big enough to be worth $1,000, I really wouldn't have any space for it. A danger room, maybe a danger room, especially if you did it in multiple pieces. That might be interesting. Everett, that's awesome that you found somebody who enjoys the same hobby as you. My wife, she's not really into action figures, but she was a huge Sesame Street fan, which is kind of what first attracted me to her, just because, you know, somebody liking something like that, an adult liking like that. So later, Uber Hulk. HasLab Cookie Monster. Yeah, that one didn't make it. Though I wouldn't be surprised if they end up releasing it down the road some way. To be honest, I felt like that needed to be more than what it was. I mean, it basically was just a big giant stuffed animal. If they like made him talk or something, then that would have been worth. I mean, other than the size, I think you got more out of like Tickle Me Elmo than you did that Cookie Monster. Oh, damn. All right, what time is it? Hey, Alexa, what time is it?
It's 2:41 p.m.
Thanks, Alexa.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Thanks. All right, so after this game, I'm probably going to wrap this up. I probably should go work on an actual review. But after this video, God damn it. After this video, you know, basically goes normal, let me know in the comments if you like this kind of video. You know, maybe I'll try and do it more. I like just kind of shooting the shit with you guys. The Alexa thing. You know, I wasn't either at first. I'm going to play one more game. But I've gotten kind of addicted to it. Alexa will turn on my TV for me, change the channel for me. I know Alexa's listening in all my conversations even when she's not supposed to, but frankly, somebody so bored, they want to listen to me. I really don't care that much. Now there are a few times when you're doing some things where I'll turn the mic off, but generally, like I said, if Big Brother wants to watch me, then they must be pretty bored. Would I invest in a 6-inch GI Juice? I don't know. Is that like orange juice for GI Joes? Would I wa- would I want a 6-inch GI Joe? I definitely would like to see 6-inch GI Joe, and the fact that we've finally got looks like we're gonna have a movie coming with the Snake Eyes movie. I'd say there might actually be a real chance of that happening for once, but we'll have to wait and see. Hasbro's been, even though it looks like the movie is moving forward, Hasbro's been pretty quiet. So, on the GI Joe front. So, but I think there's definitely some demand for a 6-inch GI Joe line. Though the problem with GI Joe is doing a 6-inch GI Joe line is while there are definitely like Marvel Legend collectors and stuff out there who would love a 6-inch GI Joe line. You're gonna, just like you saw with Marvel, wherein you started having 6-inch collectors and 3 3/4-inch collectors. Basically going into it, and anytime Hasbro would do a figure of one line and not the other, you'd have people getting mad and stuff. And so I definitely feel like that would happen with GI Joe because obviously GI Joe is a 3 3/4-inch line. And especially if Hasbro put emphasis on the 6-inch over the 3 3/4-inch, I think you'd have a lot of people who would not be happy about that. But me personally, I love them both. I love both scales, so I would be happy to see a 6-inch GI Joe line. All right, so actually, no, I died. So I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for everybody joining in and shooting the shit with me today. Again, leave a comment, not while we're on the live chat, but when the video, if you, the video will upload, and then you can just comment like it would on a normal video, and let me know if this is something you find kind of cool, want to see me do more of, and I'll try and do so. It, sometimes time is a constraint, but definitely, I find this kind of fun. So let me know in the comments, and until next time, I will catch you guys later.